This week's question was brought up during our most recent live broadcast Q&A, in which people from all over the world logged in for a live discussion regarding some of the topics and concepts discussed in the book. But this question was about anxiety, and I thought it warranted a video specifically in and of itself rather than try to squeeze it into the hour-long Q&A. A good friend of mine who has made tremendous progress in his challenge with anxiety has really helped me understand both the biological and psychological aspects of anxiety. Biologically, much like depression, it is a chemical imbalance, and so it can affect us biologically in a fight or flight mode where the adrenaline kicks in, but it takes someone with anxiety much longer to calm down from that adrenaline rush than it would for someone else, and the reaction, the response time is very different. Where others might look at the situation or scenario and not think of it as very much of a big deal, someone with anxiety feels it not just emotionally but biologically, physically, has a very strong reaction to what is going on, and it can't quote-unquote snap out of it any more than someone with depression can snap out of being depressed. It's not a sad feeling. It's much deeper than that. It is an actual chemical imbalance that is often aided with medication, but there is, of course, much talk about the benefits of grouping medication with meditation. And that's where the psychological end of anxiety can come in and really help better understand the disorder. So with anxiety, like I said, the response, the reaction to things that are happening around us seem reasonable to us, that no matter how much they affect us, and with the heartbeats go up, palms sweaty, a lot of things actually affect us physically, not just emotionally, mentally, but it actually takes over us. And so it's something that's very serious. It's not something that can be brushed aside as, oh, it's just a panic attack or whatnot. It's an actual disorder that is and can be helped through the psychological end of it. And the psychological end of it is bringing awareness to what is happening to your body. It's actually bridging that gap between the two rather than treating them as separate. They work together. And so what happens is it's kind of like a vicious cycle. When biologically we lose control of our body, we have an anxiety attack, then mentally we start actually stressing out about the actual attack itself, and that feeds the very cycle. And so, compared to any other ailment where if it's caused by stress and the ailment itself causes more stress, then you're stuck in a cycle that's really difficult to get out of. But with anxiety, the psychological end of it can really be helped and slowed down, even stopped through the practice of awareness and mindfulness. And that's why meditation and medication can work so well together. With meditation, and I don't necessarily mean that in the sense of chanting Om and sitting in full lotus position and counting your breath for an hour every day. Meditation is the idea of not so much controlling your thoughts, but not letting your thoughts control you, especially in the case of anxiety. And so what that does is it brings awareness to what's actually happening within you as it's happening. And a good friend of mine has a practice of naming her demons, so to speak. So if we're going to put anxiety to the side for a minute and just bring awareness to other feelings that come up, whether that be anger or resentment or jealousy, and if we name those demons, because what happens is when you get angry, you really become someone you're not. You're behaving in ways that you normally wouldn't, and you say things that you otherwise would not, and so you become someone else. And what my friend does is she actually names her demons. She actually named anger, an A name like Angela, or jealousy a J name like Julia. And that way, when you start noticing that anger arises or jealousy arises, you acknowledge it. You're like, I see you. And what that does is you're taking control over it rather than it taking control over you by acknowledging it. And anxiety can very much work the same way. You make yourself aware that perhaps your response to a situation, the flight or fight response, is not necessarily the most appropriate. And so you go, whoa, there's my anxiety about to kick in. Now, am I going to let it run wild? Or am I just going to either at first just kind of observe and watch what it does? And then once you familiarize yourself with its behavior patterns, you can actually intervene. You can say, all right, anxiety, I see you wanting to kick in. I can see how in a normal situation in my life, you would overreact right now. You would shut down. And I'm going to try and calm you down. I'm going to try and talk you off that ledge, so to speak. And so mindfulness and awareness can work so beautifully together in controlling what is otherwise biologically out of control. Not sure this makes any sense, but I would love to hear back from you and have any comments below that we can perhaps continue this discussion and find out who this works for and who this does not. And the invitation and the beauty of raising awareness is it's a moment-by-moment basis, and it may seem really silly at the time when you're brushing your teeth to say, okay, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm just going to brush my teeth. I'm just going to be really aware that I'm doing it rather than doing that and a million other things and checking the mail and watching a YouTube video. And there is beauty to single-minded focusedness or single-focused mindedness, that you just take the time to do what you're doing, because that skill is not necessarily to make your brushing your teeth experience more enlightened, but to bring that same muscle that you exercise when you fight the urge to go to 5 different places and just stay with one. The benefits of that are not necessarily going to be during your toothbrushing experience, but throughout the day, especially when you're struggling with anxiety. When your mind wants to wander off to a lot of things, go, no, let's just stay right here. Let's just focus on what's going on here and take control of the situation rather than letting the situation control me. I wanted to add one more mindfulness enhancing technique that may sound absurd at first because we live in a culture that really condones multitasking. But we think about our lives these days, and the single-minded focusedness that we used to have, even when driving the car, and you get to a red light, we used to just sit there at the red light and wait. And we don't do that anymore. The minute you hit the red light, you're checking your phone, you're checking messages, you're responding to text. We're not doing anything in and of itself anymore. We're dividing our attention to so many different places that it's natural for us to feel out of control, but it's up to us to gain some of that control back. And so try to bring, I know it's going to be difficult, but try to bring that level of awareness back to your life, because it'll bring that level of control back to your life. Good luck with that. Let me know how it goes.